The night was cruel, soaked in rain and silence. Lightning tore across the sky like a cry of pain from above, and the highway stretched endlessly into the darkness. Jack drove his old red pickup truck through the storm, his windshield wipers fighting against the sheets of water that blurred everything ahead. He was used to driving through storms, but that night felt different, lonelier. The seat beside him was empty, just like his heart had been ever since his wife passed away 2 years ago. Raising his 6-year-old daughter, Emma, alone hadn't been easy, but he managed, one long, exhausting day after another. Then, through the rain, Jack saw her. A woman stood on the side of the road, drenched to the bone, clutching a small child to her chest. The baby was crying weakly, and the woman's face, lit only by the headlights of passing cars, was streaked with tears. Her blue nurse uniform was soaked, her hair plastered against her forehead, and she looked like someone who had completely run out of strength. Jack's instincts made him slow down. He rolled to a stop beside her, water splashing from his tires. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your one click helps us keep spreading stories that warm hearts and remind us that goodness still exists. Jack lowered his window slightly, rain misting his face. "Are you okay?" he shouted over the storm. The woman just shook her head, clutching her child tighter. Jack saw the fear and desperation in her eyes, something he recognized instantly, because he'd seen that same look in his own mirror after his wife's death. Without another thought, he unlocked the door. "Get in," he said softly. She hesitated for only a second before climbing in, shivering and holding her baby close. The air in the truck was thick with tension and cold. The baby whimpered softly as the heater kicked on, and the woman murmured soothingly, her voice breaking halfway through. Jack handed her his spare blanket from behind the seat. "Thank you," she whispered, barely audible. "My name's Lily." Jack nodded. "I'm Jack. You and your baby safe now?" He didn't ask questions, but his mind was full of them. What was she doing alone in the middle of the highway at midnight, in that kind of weather? He just drove in silence, letting her warm up. Minutes passed before Lily finally spoke again. Her voice trembled as she explained she was a nurse at the county hospital, just 20 miles away. She'd worked a double shift that day. Her husband had recently died in an accident, leaving her with nothing but bills and a 2-year-old son, Noah. She'd been trying to get home, but her car had broken down miles back, and she didn't have the money for a tow truck. She'd started walking, hoping someone, anyone, would stop. Jack's grip on the steering wheel tightened. Every word she spoke hit too close to home. She had lost someone too, and now she was fighting to stay strong for her child, just like him. As the truck rumbled through the storm, Lily looked down at her son and whispered, "He hasn't eaten since morning. I didn't have time to buy anything before my shift." Her voice cracked, and tears rolled down her face again. Jack didn't speak. He just pulled over at the first diner he saw, a small, flickering place called Roadside Haven. Inside, the warmth was immediate. The waitress looked up as Jack walked in with Lily and her child. They sat in a corner booth while Jack ordered soup, sandwiches, and milk for the baby. Lily's hands trembled as she fed Noah, whispering to him like every bite was a promise that things would get better. Jack sat quietly across from her, watching, a man who knew what it was like to fall apart and still keep moving for someone who depended on you. When the bill came, Jack slipped a few extra notes under the plate, not letting Lily see. She tried to protest when she noticed, but he just smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry about it. You've done enough for others. Let someone help you this time." Lily looked down, unable to speak. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they weren't just from pain, they were from the shock of being seen, of being helped without judgment. Outside, the rain had softened to a drizzle. Jack offered to drive her home, and she hesitated before giving him the address. When they arrived, his heart sank. The place wasn't a home, it was a small, run-down motel on the edge of town. The paint peeled from the walls, and the sign outside flickered weakly. She explained that she'd been living there since losing her house, trying to save enough to rent a small apartment. Before she stepped out, Jack reached into his jacket and pulled out a small stuffed rabbit, Emma's favorite when she was younger. "Here," he said gently, handing it to little Noah. "She doesn't need it anymore, but maybe he will." Lily pressed her hand over her mouth, holding back a sob. You didn't have to. I know, Jack interrupted softly. But I wanted to. He watched as she disappeared into the dark motel hallway, and for reasons he couldn't explain, the image stayed with him all night. Maybe it was because he saw his own pain reflected in hers. Maybe it was because, for the first time in a long while, helping someone else made his heart feel lighter. The next day, Jack couldn't stop thinking about her. On his lunch break, he drove back to the motel, just to check in. But when he arrived, the door to her room was open, and it was empty. The manager told him she had left early that morning, leaving behind a small envelope with his name on it. Inside, there was a simple note written on a piece of torn paper. Jack, I don't have words to thank you. You didn't just give me food or warmth, you gave me hope. I was planning to give up, to stop trying. But your kindness reminded me that there are still good people out there. I've decided to move closer to my sister's place and start fresh. Please tell your daughter she has made another child smile tonight. Lily. Jack read the note 3 times before his vision blurred. He stood there for a long time, the rain beginning to fall again, soaking the paper in his hands. That night, when he tucked Emma into bed, he told her the story of a brave nurse and her little boy who found hope again because of one small act of kindness. Emma listened with wide eyes, clutching her new toy, a small replacement Jack had bought that day. Over the next few weeks, something changed in Jack. The loneliness that had once consumed him began to fade. He started volunteering at a local shelter, driving people home after late shifts, handing out blankets and food during rainy nights. He realized that sometimes, healing doesn't come from forgetting your pain, it comes from using it to help someone else survive theirs. Months later, on a clear spring morning, Jack was helping serve coffee at a hospital fundraiser when he heard a familiar voice behind him. He turned, and there she was. Lily, in her nurse's uniform, smiling shyly, holding Noah's hand. They had moved back, she explained, after getting a stable job. Jack felt an overwhelming rush of relief and gratitude. Life had brought them back together, not by chance, but by the quiet power of kindness. Before long, their friendship deepened into something more, a bond born not of perfection, but of shared scars and mutual strength. Jack never expected love again, but sometimes love finds you in the rain, when your heart is open enough to offer someone else shelter. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Every story you support helps remind the world that kindness still matters, and that even the smallest act can change a life forever. And before you go, comment below, do you believe that one act of kindness can change everything? Because somewhere tonight, someone's waiting in the rain, just hoping for that one kind soul to stop.